When we talk about natural beauty, we often imagine lush forests and pristine ingredients. But how often do we ask whether those forests are thriving or vanishing? The truth is, the quality of the botanicals we rely on for our cosmetics is deeply connected to the health of the ecosystems they come from. When forests degrade, we lose not just biodiversity, but the unique place-based ingredients that connect beauty to nature. Too much of the beauty industry still treats nature as an endless resource to be stripped away. Forests are cleared, species pushed to the brink, communities left behind. And yet there's another way. One that sees the land not just as a source of ingredients, but as something to heal and restore. Regenerative sourcing can fund reforestation, it can rebuild habitats, and it can secure the highest quality ingredients for generations to come. So in today's episode, we're going to look at what it really means to source botanical ingredients responsibly. We'll look at how rebuilding ecosystems and supporting local stewardship isn't just good ethics. It's the foundation of the very best cosmetic ingredients. This is a conversation about rethinking our relationship with nature and about the hard but hopeful work of making beauty sustainable. Welcome to Green Beauty Conversations, in which I challenge the beauty industry to become sustainable, champion independent and green beauty, and encourage you to join me in making beauty better. I'm your host, Lorraine Dahlmeier. I'm a chartered environmentalist, biologist, and the CEO of award-winning online organic cosmetic formulation school, Formula Botanica. We have tens of thousands of students in over 190 countries around the world who study with us to become organic beauty formulators and entrepreneurs. Visit our website at formulabotanica.com to try our free online formulation course. And if you want to be the first person to know what's happening in green beauty, make sure you subscribe to this podcast in your favorite podcast app. So in today's episode, I'm joined by Asa Suguitan, co-founder of Hawaii Sandalwood LLC, which is a family-owned business dedicated to reforestation and environmental responsibility. They produce the only organic, eco-certified sandalwood products made in the USA, harvesting only dead or dying trees and replanting 16 native Hawaiian species to ensure long-term sustainability. So their work helps to reintroduce Santalum paniculatum, which is a rare sandalwood species found only on Hawaii's Big Island. And they're introducing this plant to the world. Hawaii Sandalwood is also a founding partner of Essential Botanical Farms and Forests, EBFF, which is a global network of farms and forests focused on reforestation, habitat restoration, and regenerative agricultural practices. Hi, Asa. How are you doing?
I am doing amazing, Lorraine. How about yourself?
I'm really good, and I'm so interested in your story, and I'm so pleased we get to share it with our listeners. So let's start with introductions. Could you please tell us who you are and what you do?
Yeah, definitely. My name is Asa Suguitan. I was born and raised in Hawaii on the Big Island. I am fortunate enough to be part of a family reforestation project on the Big Island of Hawaii, down on the Kona side of the island. That was started back in 2009 by my uncle Wade, who had this vision, who had this desire to try to restore one of the rarest ecosystems in the world, which is a tropical dryland forest. It's a forest that once existed in what it is today is a shell of what it used to be. And, at one point, the area that we're trying to reforest was a sprawling environment that had an average of, I believe some of the early accounts of the travelers that came by ship and wrote their journals and did their observations, said that the average canopy height was 100 feet, which is amazing, and it consisted entirely of native Hawaiian plants, right? Native Hawaiian trees. That forest was clear cut in the 1800s when cattle were introduced to make room for grazing and pasture land. What they didn't realize at the time was that by removing the trees, they were removing nature's ability to collect moisture. It doesn't rain up there very often, but what happens pretty much every afternoon is that the water evaporates off of the ocean and gets driven up with the thermal winds up the mountain and becomes a fog, basically a dense fog. And unless there are trees there, when the fog rolls through, the moisture just passes by with it. With there being trees there, the land's natural way of collecting water is by collecting the fog on the leaves and then having it drip down, onto the root system. So anyway, this is, clear cut in the 1800s. Our family has ties to this land going back hundreds of years. And at the point of 2009 came around and there was an opportunity to purchase some of this land back. So there was what we call a hui, which is a group of people with the same mindset, the same goals. So there's a group of 5 gentlemen, my uncle being the lead in this project, to purchase this land and to start trying to bring this native forest back. And they were successful in acquiring the land and started this project. And it became apparent pretty quickly that there wasn't a whole lot of money to be made in planting trees. Nobody really pays you to do that.
No, they don't, sadly.
So we had to be very resourceful. We had to turn to, in Hawaii, we have a belief that if you take care of the land will take care of you. By turning to the land and looking to what the land had to offer, we realized that there was a tremendous amount of dead trees from years of neglect, from years of the forest dwindling. And a large part of this deadfall consisted of sandalwood trees. And it is a species of sandalwood that is found nowhere else in the world. It's endemic to Hawaii. It's a species called Santalum paniculatum. It's only found on the Big Island. It's only found at this particular elevation on the slope of Mauna Loa. So it's a very, very unique tree. But there was a lot of deadwood laying around, and it still contained the oil. So we started to produce, in 2013, we started to produce sandalwood oil and sandalwood hydrosol, using only the dead trees or trees that were deemed to be dying and at the end of their life cycle. One of the unique aspects of sandalwood is that it's a semi-parasitic tree. In order for it to survive, it needs to tap into the root system of host plants. And unless you have a healthy forest, unless you have a healthy ecosystem, it'll start to kill plants off one at a time. But if you have a multitude of sources for nutrients for the sandalwood tree, then the whole forest thrives. When a sandalwood tree is at the end of its life and has all of these connections established to multiple hosts, we've found that if you remove the root ball and you remove the trunk of the tree, all of those individual connections end up sprouting into new trees. So from one tree, by removing it at the end of its life cycle, you can propagate 15, 20, sometimes more, trees from that one, and they're all already established root systems. So it's a very unique ecosystem up where we work.
So you got started here through your family. You obviously got these ties to the land, and you had this ambition to regenerate it, to reforest it. And in doing so, you realized obviously that there was also money to be made in the process, which, well, I presume that then goes into the regeneration project itself.
100%. Everything that we produce up there, from the sandalwood oil to the sandalwood hydrosol, even a lot of the byproducts, when we have to chip the wood down and grind the wood down to a particular granular size in order to extract the oil, there's dust that's collected. And so all of those different products and byproducts are sold to directly support the reforestation efforts.
Oh, that's absolutely amazing. What does it feel like to be able to take a piece of land that your family has had ties to for centuries and be able to restore it like that?
Very fortunate, very lucky to be given that opportunity, but also there's a sense of responsibility. In Hawaiian, there's a word kuleana, which translates to responsibility, but more so your responsibility to the land, to the aina, to make sure that you're doing right by the land and doing right. So it feels good to be able to try to improve things. And that's the nice thing about this is over the short time that we've been doing this, the last 16 years, you've been able to see tangible results. You can see not only the growth of the trees that you've planted, but we have records that show the increased water retention, the amount of moisture that's being collected. Also being able to, learn more about all of the different synergies that exist between the native plants. And, because Hawaii is such a unique place, right? It's one of the most remote places in the world. It's most of our things there are either invasive species and, introduced or on the brink of, extinction with, the Hawaiian crow. And there's so many different examples I can go to. But this forest management is something that needs to exist, not only in Hawaii, but in all other parts of the world. I'm a firm believer that global warming is a real thing. I've witnessed the change in not only the weather patterns in Hawaii, but even like the fishing. I'm a fisherman. That is by trade. That's what I grew up doing. And there's not as many fish in the ocean.
No,
as
I
there
get
were,
it. Believe me, that is not a controversial statement here on this podcast. We're all firmly with you. The climate crisis is most definitely a real thing. Talk to me a little bit more about the Hawaiian sandalwood itself, because this might be a plant or a tree that many of our listeners have never heard of. We've heard about Australian sandalwood and we've heard about Indian sandalwood, but Hawaiian sandalwood has never come up in conversation, at least for me. So tell me a little bit more about it.
Well, Hawaiian sandalwood has a very interesting history in Hawaii. It's basically what got Hawaii on the global economy 300 years ago. It's what King Kamehameha used to trade with the Chinese merchants in order to obtain the cannons and the muskets and the weaponry that he used to unite the Hawaiian Islands. So, sandalwood goes back and you could go down this weird wormhole that if it wasn't for sandalwood, Hawaii could potentially look a lot like the Caribbean, where every chief at that time had full authority for, over his island and over his people. And if it wasn't for Kamehameha unifying the Hawaiian Islands under one rule, each of those chiefs could have made pacts and deals with, all of the different nations that were, any one of those nations that were traveling down here at that time. You had the Spanish, you had the French, you had the Dutch, you had the Portuguese, the Russians. Yeah. There's a weird little tidbit of information here, but the chief of Kauai actually for a very brief period of time had an alliance with Russian forces. There was a Russian flag that flew over the king's residence in Kauai for a short period of time. So it's what got Hawaii on the global economy. It's also what got Hawaii kind of in a little bit of trouble with debt and, us owing people, the trade was all new to the Hawaiian people in the late 1700s, early 1800s, So sandalwood played a very important role in shaping what Hawaii is today. And it was a resource that was actually severely depleted because of the desire. It's a desirability.
Yeah.
At one point, the Chinese used to call the Big Island Sandalwood Mountain because there was so much sandalwood on the island.
Wow.
And we had several different species of sandalwood. There's roughly 15 different species of sandalwood worldwide, and Hawaii had at one point, nearly a third of them.
Wow, that's really impressive.
There might be a little bit more than 15, but I know that I know for sure that Hawaii had, 6 or 7 different species that evolved, not only on the Big Island, but on the other islands as well.
But you're now working with Santalum paniculatum. So that's the specific species that you're growing on the land that's owned by Hawaii Sandalwood. Talk to me a little bit more about how it's used in cosmetics. I mean, we're the Green Beauty Conversations podcast, so I've got to talk about beauty as well.
Of course. From what we have been able to gather and from my experience thus far, sandalwood oil has been used for a long, long time for a lot of different applications. Perfume industry has used sandalwood, extensively. Apparently it layers very, very well with other fragrances. So they use it as a base fragrance to blend their other ingredients with. The sandalwood oil itself, has antimicrobial properties that we see being very, very desirable in the cosmetics industry. The dust I had mentioned, one of the byproducts that we create, we actually have several customers who are taking that very, very fine sandalwood dust and incorporating it within a facial cream to create like a face mask.
Yeah.
What I'm very excited about is what we're potentially, seeing from the hydrosol side of things.
Yes.
So hydrosol is a product that's created during the steam extraction process. Anytime you use perfect. Yeah, we are too. Because we explored when we started this project, my Uncle Wade traveled all over the world and tried to learn from other places that were making essential oil, specifically sandalwood, went down. So anyway, steam extraction was the desirable method that we chose. And that's what we've created our SOPs and all of our procedures off of. So anyway, back to the hydrosol. Anytime you use steam to extract essential oil, when the steam returns to its water form, it retains some of the properties of the material that you were extracting. So the analogy I like to use is for anybody who steams vegetables at home, broccoli. When you're done steaming the broccoli has a little green tinge to it, a little, color of the broccoli, a little essence of the broccoli. Same concept with the hydrosol is it retains some of the properties of the sandalwood, the antimicrobial properties of the sandalwood. So we have third-party test results that show it's an all-natural antimicrobial, antibacterial water, 99.9% water, very, very small trace amounts of the water-soluble parts of the oil.
Yes.
It is effective on staph. It's effective on acne. It's effective on dandruff. And we have third-party test results from labs that show this. So what we've seen a trend moving towards is customers taking their existing water-based formulations and replacing it with the hydrosol to gain the antimicrobial properties. So imagine being able to potentially create an all-natural dandruff shampoo using the sandalwood hydrosol as the base ingredient.
That's very much what we teach here as well at Formula Botanica, is why go for water when you can use hydrosols? Talk to me a little bit more about the actual production process, because it sounds to me like you're making the hydrosols, you're making the essential oils, you're making the fine particle dust, which can be used in masks or scrubs, presumably. How does it go from collecting these dead or dying trees to creating the essential oils?
Well, that's where the biggest challenge lies, is that, we're literally on the slope of a dormant volcano, Mount Mauna Loa, at about a 6,000 foot elevation.
Wow.
So in addition to the land that our family was able to purchase, back in 2009, in comparison is a very, very small piece of land. The key to this whole project is our partnership with Kamehameha Schools, which is basically the largest nonprofit in the world. Kamehameha Schools is basically the trust, the organization that was put into place after the overthrow of the Hawaiian monarchy. That's what protected a lot of the royal lands. That's what created the Hawaiian Homelands Act, which enables families and people with Hawaiian blood the opportunity to lease land. But I don't know, because land is so expensive in Hawaii. The average person's never going to own it. So Kamehameha Schools has given us access to a lot of the land that surrounds our property, specifically with the goal of reforestation. Their devotion to the land and to the aina is of the highest level. We can continue to work with them and can continue to replant. There's thousands and thousands of acres of land that are out there. And the more land we have access to, the more trees we're able to plant. And it's truly through the partnership with them that, so I've got to give them their roses here as well, because they're a tremendous organization, have really, really helped with the not only our reforestation efforts, but all over the state.
How do you get a dead sandalwood tree off the side of a dormant volcano to a processing facility? That cannot be easy.
No. So we started by using ground-based vehicles. We started by using ATVs, then trucks, and the landscape there is not very forgiving. It's literally dry lava. So the wear and tear on the vehicles became too much. It came to the point where the best way for us to do it, we found, was to spend the time out in the field, gathering the dead material into bundles, and then hiring a helicopter for 2 days. And we do fly days once every 3 to 4 months, depending. There's certain times of year that we don't fly because of the pupping for the Hawaiian bat. When the Hawaiian bat's pupping, we're very conscious to make sure that we don't disturb the natural balance of things. And we hire a helicopter for a couple days and spend it flying dead material out to the landing.
I would love to see this in action. That's incredible.
I've got a video, Lorraine. I'll send it over to you. I took it a couple weeks ago during Fly Day, and it's and they're all, again, these are dead trees, and in some cases these trees have been laying on the ground for 40, 50, 60 years.
This is incredible, Asa, and thank you so much for sharing your connection with the land as well and how important this is to you. I think what you're doing here is absolutely amazing. And I love that we've been able to sort of paint a picture of what it looks like as well. I very much am now regretting that I haven't been to Hawaii yet and must absolutely do so. But there's more to this, isn't there? Because we've spent, quite a bit of time now talking about Hawaii Sandalwood and all the work you've been doing there. But you also partner with other farms and forests all over the world who are doing similar work to you. So tell me a little bit about that partnership and what's actually going on there.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate in the sense that I've had the opportunity to meet like-minded individuals. We talked about the hui concept in Hawaii earlier about starring the land. This is a hui of farms and forests from around the world whose main primary focus is positive environmental impact, whether it be through reforestation, regenerative agriculture practices, or habitat restoration, watershed retention, things of that nature. So we've created a group fondly referred to as EBFF, Essential Botanical Farms and Forests. And it's, like I said, a group of farms and forests located all over the world that create the highest quality essential oils and hydrosols as a result of their positive environmental impact projects. Very similar to, I'll take a few minutes maybe to talk about one that I've had the opportunity to go and visit recently. And so it's a project down in Ecuador that is very, very similar to the project we have in Hawaii, in the sense that it's a reforestation project based on restoring one of their most desirable trees down there, which is the Palo Santo tree. It's referred to down there as Holywood, but it is a tree that, in order for it to produce oil, it actually needs to be dead for a number of years. I believe the number is about 5 years for it to be dead and have the chemical reaction take place that allows the oil to be produced. So the farm down in that area is working with the Ecuadorian government to reforest the Palo Santo tree, and they're using the dead Palo Santo to fund those efforts as well. So it's amazing to see projects that are taking place with people who don't necessarily speak the same language.
Yes.
I can go there and we really might not be able to communicate on, a verbal level, but we're able to communicate on putting a tree in the ground and understanding what that means to the next generation and the generations after that level. So it's really, really, I feel very blessed. Yeah, I feel very blessed. I can imagine you
do. So. I mean, I love that you guys are called the EBFFs as well. The penny's only just dropped with me. That's really fun. So you mentioned Ecuador. Where else around the world are some of these farms and forests based?
We've got several farms in the United States, one up in Canada. There's a couple over in Europe as well. There's one in Japan. So it's definitely a worldwide initiative. It's something that is relatively new in the sense that all of these different locations have been producing oil and hydrosol for many, many years, but they've produced it in essence for one customer. And that one customer has purchased, all of the material and utilized it to make, a tremendous line of different products. But it's at the point where we have gotten very good at what we do. We've learned that if you nurture the land and make sure that the land comes first, then the resulting ingredients, the resulting oils and hydrosols are always of the highest level. That's the goal, again, right, is to be able to leave it better than when we started. And in order to do that, we've got to pay, the realities are we need to be able to fund those efforts. And we found that the way to do that is to produce the highest quality essential oils and hydrosols available. So
I love that. How did you guys all find each other? Because, you're talking about distinct areas of the world. You're not around the corner from each other. You're out on the big island in Hawaii. How do you find a farm in Japan or in Ecuador who's got a similar mindset, similar regenerative practices? How does that work?
It's actually a pretty small circle of people that have that mindset as their focus. There's lots of companies out there that are producing essential oils. There's lots of companies out there that are selling, they're buying and reselling. There's very, very few that produce these ingredients as a result of, a reforestation project, a habitat restoration project. There's conferences that take place. There's, gatherings of people that take place that are starting to become more and more attended at this point. There's people who are showing up. I think right now there is definitely a desire by consumers, by formulators, by just the average Joe to truly know where the products that they're using are coming from, where the ingredients that they're using, whether in their own home wellness process or whatever it is that they're doing, where are those ingredients coming from? What type of impact? What type of sustainability? It's definitely becoming more and more important. So these groups and these gatherings are becoming larger and larger. When I started this, in 2017, 2018, it was only a handful of us. So that's truly how we came together, was just being able to say and being able to say that it's worth my time to go hop on a flight to go attend this conference, or to go, and I know you do a lot of traveling, you do a lot of outreach to get your message out there and to be able to educate people and to be able to try to teach them the right way or offer them a way of doing things. At the end of the day, it's up to the individual. And my goal here is just to try to educate people and to make people aware of the fact that there are ingredients out there that truly have positive environmental impacts and go beyond sustainability. There's a lot of catchphrases out there. There's a lot of
greenwashing.
There's a lot of aggressive marketing campaigns that talk about their carbon, sequestration and anyway. We have the proof in the pudding. Yes. It's something that, and we've got, the thing I love about this is not only at my project in Hawaii, but any of these projects around the world, we've got an open door policy. You're ever in town, come see what we're doing. We'd love to, because we're trying to share this, to show people that there is an economically feasible way to be able to utilize the resources of the land that's not detrimental to the next generation.
Can you give me a few more examples of ingredients that you guys create? Because obviously you guys have the Hawaiian Sandalwood. You talked about the Palo Santo from Ecuador. What other sorts of ingredients is the group of BFFs making?
Yeah, some of the ones that I really I personally like are some of the evergreens and the conifers that we're producing out of North America. So we've got, some of the spruces, black spruce, blue spruce. There's a grand fir is one of my favorites. It's, every time I smell it, it kind of reminds me of Christmas.
Yeah.
It's, just very, in each region, it's localized to what that region produces. We're not trying to grow things that aren't naturally grown in those areas or trying to, grow crops that have the highest yields or the highest profitability behind it. In fact, there's a location that we have in North America, up in Utah, that has designated an entire portion of the farm for habitat. There's nothing that's going to be grown on that piece of land that is going to yield any type of crop. It's designed as habitat for the monarch butterflies.
Oh, beautiful.
So when they make their migration from Mexico up to Canada and back, we've depleted so much of the habitat that they used to have to feed and to rest that a lot of them don't make that journey anymore. They don't survive that journey anymore, I guess is what I should say. So we're trying to do what little we can to help them with their travels. I know how tough traveling can be.
I love that you guys have such a strong mission and that it comes back. And that obviously comes back in everything you do, but not just that. You found this whole coalition of people around the world who are doing the same thing. And you coordinate the Essential Botanical Farms and Forests project, don't you?
Yeah, I kind of just make sure that all of the dots are connected and everybody, like we were talking about, not everybody's speaking the same language. So I'm just trying to make sure that we're all paddling the canoe in the same direction, and we're all trying to achieve not only our group goals, but our individual goals, because each of the locations, obviously, their goal is to be sustainable and to be here for the long term. And this is what I feel EBFF is going to allow them the opportunity to do. So
I love that.
It's a pleasure to be involved with it. I'm really excited. And like we talked about when I had the opportunity to meet you in Amsterdam, this is new in the sense that EBFF has only been offering their portfolio of ingredients for about the last year. This is, we're the new kids on the block.
That was going to be my next question. So the first time I met Asa was at In Cosmetics in Amsterdam in 2025. And he had this stall and it had all these bottles in front of him of hydrosols and essential oils. And he was going, take some samples. And unfortunately, I couldn't fit much in my bag, but I did take a few back with me and enjoyed them very, very much. And I'm sure that many of the people listening to this podcast are also currently chomping at the bit thinking, how do I get hold of some of these ingredients? So talk to me about the sorts of companies that you sell to, because we're listened to by a lot of beauty brands, a lot of formulators, beauty founders. If they're, a lot of them are tiny companies, some of them are big ones as well. If they're interested in coming to buy from you, how does that work?
Well, again, we are the new kids on the block here. So I would really, we are trying to make this accessible. We made sure to make the minimum order quantity something realistic. So our MOQs for the essential oils are 1 kilogram. And the minimum order quantity for any of our hydrosols or floral waters is 25 liters. We'll gladly provide samples upon request. Samples are provided along with all of the scientific data, safety data sheets, certificates of analysis, gas chromatography reports.
Wow.
One of the other unique aspects of this whole project is at each location around the world, not only do we handle the process from seed through the essential oil, all the way through its complete vertical integration, we also have laboratories at all of our facilities to be able to provide analytics for you. We can gladly use third parties if you prefer, but we've got the information and we've got the means to do it. So the samples are sent out, along with all of the appropriate documentation. And then from there we can, see. But the list of essential botanical farms and forests, it's a seasonal thing, right? It depends on what's going on, where in the world and what's available. So it's constantly shifting, constantly changing. So, I think the best way to inquire about, what we have to offer is just, drop me an email, asa@hawaisandalwood.com.
We will include all of the links in the show notes. I've got a few more questions for you, though, before we round this off. What's been the most rewarding part of this journey so far for you?
I think for me, again, I've been given the opportunity to be part of something that is not only meaningful to me, but I truly believe that it's something that unless we as humans address, the deforestation of the world, the overfishing, all of these, we all got to make some type of concerted effort to try to make a difference. And for me, this is a way that I can actually see that difference happening. I can see a tree that was planted in a multitude of places around the world that when I came back, however many years later, it had grown. just being able to, I remember as a kid, things couldn't happen fast enough. Summers, the school year seemed like it was forever and ever. And now as you become an adult and, things happen so quick and life is fast. And, I just, for myself, I really feel that this is my opportunity that I'm being given to try to make what little difference I can. And I'm going to give it my best effort. So
I love that.
For me,
yes, great answer.
Most rewarding. Yeah.
So final question then, what would you like to see change in the way that the beauty industry sources ingredients?
I think the change is slowly starting to happen right now. Like we talked about, it's gotta be it can't happen overnight. It's not like you're going to flip a switch and all of a sudden change your supply chain. There's a lot that goes into the production of essential oils and hydrosols all over the world that might not be the best means of producing them. There might be other options. And I think with the way things are in this world nowadays and your ability to get information, in this computer age and being able to just take that extra time to maybe make sure that what you're buying for your product or what you're buying for your own personal use doesn't have maybe some red flags or some question marks as you look about where it came from or how it was sourced, or because the cheapest ingredient isn't always necessarily the best.
No, it's very true. You're giving me vibes of Dr. Seuss's The Lorax at the moment. Unless someone cares an awful lot, it's not going to get better. It's not that sort of thing. But it's true. Everyone has to have the same passion and has to be heading in the same direction. And it sounds to me like what you're doing with Hawaii Sandalwood and with the Essential Botanical Farms and Forests, EBFF. I love that you guys are doing fantastic work. Asa, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. If you've already mentioned your email address, but what are the websites where people can come and find out more about both of those organizations that you talked about?
You can find us at hawaisandalwood.com, and there is EOBFF.com. We couldn't get the EBFF header, but we were able to get the EO, Essential Oil Botanical Farms and Forests. So
I love it.
EOBFF. And just make a mention, maybe, if you do go that route, just that you heard it through Lorraine's podcast here, and then I'll be able to help you out. So
I'm sure you'll get lots of interest because your story is fantastic, and I wish you all the very best with it. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Thank you so much, Lorraine. I appreciate your time. Aloha.
Aloha. I would love to hear your thoughts on this episode. How does it feel to know that there are so many farms and forests around the world creating these wonderful essential oils and hydrosols whilst also regenerating the land and giving back to nature? Leave us a comment on our social channels, as both the Formula Botanica team and I love hearing from you. And if you want to hear some more episodes about the topics we discussed today, please do delve back into the podcast archives. Some great examples include episode 255, in which I spoke with Chloe Valet of Prime Green about the way that they're supporting farmers across Latin America with their moringa oil and other beautiful cosmetic ingredients and driving forward sustainability initiatives. Or listen to episode 213, in which I interviewed Ruth Andrade, the Earth Care Strategy Lead at Lush, about the way that they're embracing regenerative beauty. Or episode 239, in which I interviewed Jane Dunlop of Alawan on how the Indonesian island of Simeulue is conserving their biodiversity by harvesting and growing coconuts for coconut oil. There is a wealth of information in our old episodes, and I do encourage you to go back and listen to them. Thank you for joining Asa and I for this latest episode of Green Beauty Conversations. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do leave us a 5-star review so that other people can enjoy these conversations too. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever your favorite podcast app is, and stay tuned for the next episode. Follow Formula Botanica at Formula Botanica on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Pinterest, or LinkedIn. We are everywhere. And come and give me a follow at Lorraine Dahlmeier on Instagram and LinkedIn. Visit our website at formulabotanica.com and sign up for our free online formulation course today.